See if voices get caught up in Audacity.
I see Joe's forehead.
What's up? Yep. I don't know how to zoom back. So I don't know how to zoom. I feel like unscrewing it should do something.
It probably has its own software, dude.
Well, let's figure it out here. Not that. Where the hell is this freaking software for this thing? I think you're right, Nate, but the thing that sucks is there's like absolutely no leverage to it. Like it's so light that the cord basically swings it whatever direction the cord is going.
It's my wife's picture.
Yes, mine is totally out of focus.
I just have to use my wife's computer because mine decided to not work.
What's wrong with it?
I think the port for the power jack has become loose again. Apparently, it's a common thing on that model. It happened a while back. It's the same, doing the same exact thing where it's like, you know, it's charging, it's not charging, it's charging, it's not charging, your battery's dead. And the cord's fine, I'm sure. I'm sure it's that again, so I'll just take it in and get it fixed and replaced like I did last time.
Get Audacity working to see if I can record both of us at the same time.
Which episode is it?
117.
117.
Up here's the Pina Gallery.
The Pina Colada Gallery.
Recap.
I am getting a call right now from my little brother. Hey, Will, happy birthday. Not too bad. I'm just getting ready to record the podcast. Can I give you a call after it's done?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, cool. I want to hear about your trip. All right, bye. Will had a work trip down in Hannibal, Missouri, so I celebrated with him.
Stop the recording for a second.
You want to try listening to it?
Yeah, see how my voice comes in. All the way down.
Oh, shit. I didn't go all the way back. Let's see here.
Oh,
Such a soft voice.
I got to be a dick to a parent yesterday. That was fun.
What'd you do?
Well, like basically anyway, so I have a policy in my room that once you're in my room, you don't leave my room unless you're like bleeding out your eyeballs. But I give them this thing called a whoops pass. So they get 5 times every quarter, 20 times in a year, they can leave my room for any reason. And this one girl has a tendency to use hers up lickety split and then thinks she should be able to leave my room for whatever reason she wants. So she was like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" I'm like, "Nope, you just got back from lunch. Do you have your whoops pass?" "No, I used it all up." "And nope, you're not leaving my room."
Yeah. Are you still in school?
Yeah, we've had our last like half day with students. I have like a half day tomorrow. That's just kind of check out procedures and then I'm done. But anyway, so the mother called because this girl continued to argue, yell, and demand that she get her way. So I sent her to the office for being disrespectful because she wouldn't shut up and sit down so I could teach. And the mother was like, "Well, why did that happen? And I was like, well, because she was being rude, disrespectful, and I told her to sit down, and she refused to follow directions. And she's like, well, is this because you wouldn't let her go to the bathroom? I'm like, yeah, because I give them a whoops pass. She used it all up. It's been my policy the whole time. Most of the other teachers have a similar policy, and your daughter is no exception to those policies. And the mother's like, well, I don't agree with that. And I basically was like, that's fine. You cannot agree with it all you want, but you don't dictate the policies of my classroom.
I'm glad that you're taking that stand, because there's too many parents that think they can swing their weight around, think of themselves as the real teacher of their kids, even regarding the one class you actually have them for.
Yep. She's like, well, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow morning, with the principal and superintendent. I'm like, well, you can call them and see if they decide a meeting is warranted. All I'm going to do is come in and restate my policy and walk out the door. Mm-hmm. She didn't come in, so.
She threatened to come in and talk to the superintendent and the principal.
Yeah. Seeing if I would cave, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And I just got to
hold strong, Andy.
Oh no, I don't. I've gotten to the point where, like, honestly, if a parent even calls and starts yelling at me, I'm just gonna hang up on them. Like, I don't care about. I'm done with this. You think you get to tell us how to run our shit and how it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'm like, if you don't like my policies, there's a very easy solution. Open enroll your kid to another school. But I doubt you're going to find a different reception there. Then I got off the phone. I'm like, well, I think I figured out why the kid has a problem with authority and knowing when to shut up.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me all well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of sit back a little bit from the mic because I come in a little bit stronger than Nate. So anyway.
What you really need to do, Joe, is during the recording, you need to occasionally write messages on your forehead and dry erase marker.
Thank you. Yeah. It's maybe
when you're bored, write bored on your forehead.
All right. Yep. I could just write it in Sharpie. I could write balls. Mm-hmm. So
just
anyway,
write light gamer on it. Yeah.
Light gamer. Light gamer, proud of it. Yep, light gamer just finished Through the Ages.
Through the Ages.
Gateway gamer.
That's a gateway game.
Yep. I need to figure out what the hell this.
That's what people were playing at Heavycon as a filler.
Through the Ages was like a pickup thing.
They had a pickup game of Democker.
They had a pickup game of 1817.
So quiet.
Yeah, they did a pickup game of it. I remember that.
Did you?
Oh,
you might.
That ended in 3 hours because everybody went
because there's a
bankrupt.
fucking volume.
Yeah, there's a little volume slider on there.
4-hour game of Diamocker or 8.5-hour game of Virgin Queen.
Is there anything?
Well, to be fair, I think the game of Virgin Queen went longer than it was supposed to.
That's what people said. It's supposed to take about that long.
I think it went a little bit long. We had a serious AP player for a while. It was really bad.
I don't know how to make this camera do anything aside from just what
Did it
it's
come with
doing
any
right
software
now.
when you bought it?
No, it's just that it was like $4.
So yeah, this is what you get.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we're just gonna go.
What is this?
That would be a router that I no longer need now that I just use the one that CenturyLink provided, and it works fine. MediaCom was a lot of my frustration. If you've noticed, I haven't been like the bandwidth is lower, but it's much more like consistent. I got to get a glass of water here before we get started.
Oh, I've got my water bottle. Yeah, I'll be right back.
I got a Fresca.
Good for you.
It's pretty delicious.
Good old Fresca. It's like slice. don't mind. I got one of those for me. Yeah, it's like gotta be at least 10-degree difference between up here and down there. I need to sleep down there.
Wow, I actually get cell phone reception down here.
Okay, I am back.
So it's just going to be you and Trent talking a lot.
And you'll be the one who's mainly responding to them, I'm imagining, Nate.
It'll just be mostly
I feel
Nate
like I'm
crying
going
in the
to-
background because he wasn't able to go.
Yeah, the entire time I was just watching Twitter, being like, "I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous." It's like seeing you turn green.
All right. Good old Diet Sam's Cola product
Well,
placement.
you
It
just bought a
doesn't taste
house.
good.
You
You
got
shouldn't
to
drink it.
cut money where you can.
Mhm. Yep. It's an area that I deemed worthy of cutting.
Next, you'll be like a college roommate living off the garbage bag size thing of nacho chips and a bucket of cheese.
Well, yeah. That's actually, we just recently bought ramen, so maybe we'll be there soon. Trent, you there?
Yeah.
We all ready to go, gentlemen?
Delete all that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
All right, ready to press record here. We're already doing the live event, so I mean, I think this video when it posts to YouTube usually gets about eight views every 2 months, and I
Which
think
is
it's
somebody accidentally clicking on it, isn't it?
yeah, it's totally by mistake. I don't advertise this. This is just the only way that we can record. So, all right, I'm gonna go and press record in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. I'm your host Joe Sallin, and I'm joined tonight by
Andrew Dennison.
Turnham.
and we found him lurking in a corner, and this is the only thing you'll see. That is
Nathan Eggers.
the elusive Nate. He's here to join us because we are giving a hero's welcome to our two hosts here, to Andy and Trent, because they just got back from Heavycon. And so today we're going to talk all about what happened at Heavycon. It's kind of a special episode. We're not going to do our normal format. We're not going to be reviewing. You'll hear reviews, you'll hear hypes, but it's all going to be kind of intermixed because there's just a lot to unpack. And I wanted to have this all delivered to you, the listeners, while it was still fresh. So, Andy and Trent, this was both of your first Heavycon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you guys take it. Tell us, like what exactly, what were your experiences, and we'll see what all we come up with as you guys start talking.
Yeah, I think it's probably good to initially just recap what Heavycon is in case people didn't listen to the last episode, kind of leading up to it. So just real quickly again, Heavycon is a convention put on by the Heavy Cardboard podcast. It's kind of an invite only thing, not so much because of exclusivity, but more just because they only have so much space. They're only allowed to have so many people per the hotel space they get. I mean, there is a little bit of them trying to control who they let in. Yeah, personality is really what they're trying to control there. Not so much, certain that, but just people that will get along well together. I think Edward really wants
Personality is exclusivity.
Well, it is, but basically I think it's Edward doesn't want to have a situation where he has to throw somebody out of the hotel for being, not the best of sports. So, I get it, but it's really not that hard to get an invite. I mean, it's basically, get on the list and then do just enough online communication so that he's like, oh wait, this person's kind of a nice, cool person. Sweet, they're on an invite. It's not all that together difficult to do it. So, but anyway, it's kind of like I guess I've heard it described as this, and I think Trent could probably speak more to this. But a lot of people describe it as kind of like a smaller BGG con for heavy gamers.
I would agree with that. The vibe is a lot like BGG Con. Obviously, it's a lot smaller, whereas BGG Con's usually about 3,000 people. This is about 100. But the idea that it's basically just like a lot of tables in a room, people play games, and there's flags for pickup games and stuff. That's all just like BGG Con. It felt like a smaller BGG Con to me, almost exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I mean, that's pretty much what it was. It was just a lot of people playing games. There wasn't like a dealer hall or really anybody there selling anything. I think what was kind of different this year that was sort of neat was I think this year was the first year where they had kind of a super big sponsor. Clay from Capstone Games was like a main sponsor of it, it felt like, where they kind of talked about some new releases he has going on. And there were a lot of other people sponsoring and helping with it. They had a huge number of games they gave away. Pretty much, if you didn't go home with a fairly, a full game, you went home with gift certificates to Game Surplus or other things like that. So I don't know. They had a lot of stuff, and they had a lot of sponsors I know they listed. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how they had some pretty good sponsorship, even though it's a pretty small convention. Like, how many guys were there all in all? I mean, guys and gals, how many attendees were there?
No,
It was about 100.
it was in the
That
90s. They announced the number, and it was in the 90s, but I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah, but I think it's worth pointing out too, though, that I mean the kind of people who are sponsoring Heavycon are not like, they were all within that heavy gamer niche. Like, this is the audience for their games. Unlike a Gen Con or something like that, they might be interested in some of these kind of games. But the kind of games you saw up on the wall that were ultimately going to be giveaways, I mean, there was some middle of the road Euros or middleweight Euros, like, Yokohama and stuff like that. But a lot of it was like war games, very heavy Euro games. Game
Not the
Surplus,
type of stuff
I
where
think,
they're wanting to
donated a lot.
sell to foot traffic. This is the people who buy these games or the attendees at the convention. So might only be 100
Right.
people, but they're 100 of the target audience.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that in Trent's grab bag he ended up with basically a voucher for a free 18 CZ that's coming out, which I was like, anywhere else this would be an awesome gift, but how many people here have already backed it?
Yeah, I kept running into people like they encourage you to trade vouchers, and like there were lots of people like, I would love to have that, except I already backed the Kickstarter.
Yeah, did you already back it, Trent?
Yeah, I had backed it, so I was looking to trade it.
Yeah, of course.
I know someone who might want it.
Well, I already traded it.
Yeah. And but I ended up with a copy of Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal, which is, I'm like, when I got it, I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm like, if anybody offers me anything really cool, maybe I'll trade it. But if not, like, it's supposed to be a pretty good little tactical intro war game. And I'm like, Sekigahara, for whatever reason, didn't like really hit me that big.
Andy,
but I'll
I've
take this one and
played
give it a shot.
Conflict of Heroes. I have played it, and I'll tell you right now, man, Sekigahara is like a light year or two ahead of Conflict of Heroes. Conflict of Heroes is like, for your sort of like ASL person. Like I'm yet to see you, Andy, be interested in a simulation of like just war, of like a tactical war simulation. So I guess maybe this is your chance to figure out. I would say though, like Conflict of Heroes is just basically ASL light, and we all know how much Andy loves the streamlined versions of games.
Yep.
Oh man, if Andy disappears down the ASL hole, it's gone. It's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I only have
I
so
see
many
what
hours
happens.
in a day.
I mean, like the Conflict of Heroes, you're rolling quite a bit of dice in this game. Like it reminds me, it has dice that's kind of similar to the War of the Ring, where you're gonna roll dice at the beginning of the round, And then on top of that, whenever you like have a hit, you then have to draw a token and it tells you what happened. And there's just like 18 different tokens. And so you might be dazed, you might not, you might have just gotten away without getting hit at all. There's a lot of different conditions. And your enemy's not going to know what you are. It's, to me, Andy, I'd be very surprised. But then again, you've betrayed your own taste many times in the past.
I'm quirky.
Anyway, I traded my 18CZ for a copy of Indonesia, and then I had the designer sign it because the designer was there.
Yeah.
Nice.
I opened the shrink wrap enough so he could sign the bottom of the box.
Yep.
Yeah, that's legit. You guys, so
Yeah.
the designers, did they so I'm wondering, is a part of Heavycon, like, I'm wondering, does Heavycon like bring in these designers? I assume they like, ask these designers to attend and then offer to, pay for their room and stuff. I think that Tom Bassel does that type of stuff when he goes up to some conventions. There's one that he always goes to in like Michigan or something. And I assume the only reason that he would be going to Grand Con in Michigan is either family or he's getting a paycheck.
I think they may have helped Jerome get there, but I think that he was there to attend. He seemed to be just like an attendee, basically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Isn't he
last
the one
year.
who just loves playing 18xx games?
Yeah, exactly. It was last year. It was Food Chain Magnate got the golden elephant, so they a lot of it was asking them to come on over, so that they could present them to him in person, which was really cool. And and Yeroon was just like, is there a lot of 18xx being played? And they're like, well, we had quite a bit last year. And he's like, yeah, I'm sold. I love train games. And Yoris didn't come this year, but Yeroon did. And whenever I looked around, he was playing other things, but he was playing a heck of a lot of 18xx too. But he was playing tramways and other stuff too as well. But he was a really nice guy. The thing that was kind of a bummer was he actually came down the first morning, and Trent and I had just finished eating. He was like, oh, can I join you too? I was like, oh God, really? Oh man, we could have had breakfast with, one of the Splotter designers had we been just like 15 minutes later.
Yeah, I didn't even realize who it was. I was like, yeah.
At least they didn't almost get killed by an Uber driver this year.
Yeah, that was brought up once. That was well, they were close enough. I think one of the things Edward wanted was to get close enough that he could have a shuttle service to avoid any accidental Uber deaths again.
Nice, yeah. Shuttle services are nice.
That'd be so awkward.
So your guys' discussion so far has brought up a question, a hypothetical. So I am an average attendee of Heavycon. Like I'm just, I'm number 45 out of 90 or 47 out of 95, whatever.
Right.
What percentage of my Heavycon is spent in an 18xx game?
As much as you want.
Actually, yeah, really.
Of course, but come on. Like I'm this is hypothetical here. This is we're not whatever you want.
Yeah. I think last year, like Edward was really getting on about this because one of the most vocal elements of the people who were at Heavycon were the train gamers. But in reality, I would say for every one train game being played, there was at least 5 or 6 non-train games being played.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
I mean,
it was more that you noticed it because you were excited to see that because you're not used to it or something. Maybe I
right. Like I would say,
it was interesting to me because there were times when you'd go into that main room, especially in the evenings, it felt like, and there'd be several 18xx games getting played at once, but they were not the only things being played. There were all kinds of things being played. I've never seen 6 tables of 18xx going at once in one place ever before. That was interesting. And so, you notice that. You couldn't help it. The room's not that big. When you wander around the room, you notice patterns like that. So, definitely that was a part of the convention. But I think that you could easily go there and never have played an 18xx game and had a blast and filled up all your time with games.
right. And it seemed like, depending on the day, it might swing one way or the other. Like there was, I don't know. It might have been Friday, I think, but it was Friday. It seemed like there was just 18xx all over the place. But then Saturday, I noticed like lots of big war games being played, like Triumph and Tragedy, Virgin Queen. So there was a lot more of that going on Saturday. But I would say, I mean, even if you combine all the tables that were playing war games and 18xx together, there was still equal or greater numbers of tables playing like, Euro games, medium to heavyweight Euros.
Fair enough.
Average.
So, I guess what games did you guys play?
Well, how about this? Let's let Andy go through what he wants to talk about, and I'll chime in the ones I played with him because we did overlap some. And then I'll talk about the ones that I played without Andy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, so kind of starting out, like I started out, of course, Thursday in the world of 18xx. And I played 2 games for the first time. I played 18 Ireland in the morning. And that was really fun because who was all in that? The main one I remember was the guy teaching it was Kyle from the Dual Gauge.
That's
podcast.
like a brand new game, 18 Ireland.
Yeah, it was. And 18 Ireland was fun. That game was vicious. It's like it's a $4,000 bank, and the higher
That's
the
not
play.
very much.
No, that's not.
No, it's not.
You start the game with what?
You start with about the same amount, but you just don't make a lot of money. And there's like mergers in the game, but they can be hostile mergers. So like I've never been so afraid in any other 18xx as I was in this one when people start building track towards my companies. Because what can happen is in this one is, let's say someone connects a route to you and they go, hey, I'm proposing a merger between your company and my company. In a lot of merger games, you can just say, no, I refuse to merge to your company. And that's all she wrote. But in this game, you get votes based on the number of shares that you own of the companies who are involved in the merger. So let's say I'm in a situation where I own 3 shares of my minor company, but the other guy owns 3 shares of his, and say Trent owns a share of it too. If the other guy and Trent say, no, there's going to be a merger, I am forced to merge with that company and I can just lose control of everything I've been doing. I have never seen companies change hands that many times before. I ended up winning that game, and I'm still not exactly sure how it happened. I'd have to play it more to figure that out. But yeah, it was very, very cutthroat. Like it was, anytime someone started veering track towards me, I was like, oh dear God, please, they're going to steal my company from me. Which wasn't always a bad thing actually, but yeah, it was kind of nuts. You had to not try to get too attached to the companies you were running because they could jump around quite a bit. And then that night, Trent and I played 1822, which actually won the Golden Elephant Award, which shocked the crap out of me in 18xx won it. I figured they were totally like, the underdog for that. But that game was neat. It looks really big on the table, but it wasn't that long. I'd say maybe took like 5-6 hours as a learning game.
I would say part of that is due to the sheer number of smaller companies in it.
Oh God,
because,
yeah, there's lots.
Yeah, that feels like the map fills up really fast because there's so many little companies operating and throwing tile on the map that they end up connecting up really fast. So it doesn't feel nearly as big as it looks at first glance.
Yeah, and the neat thing about that game was so many 18xx games begin with this pretty cool little auction thing, and then like you never auction anything the rest of the game. In this game, there's always stuff up for auction. Like I have never played an 18xx that throws this much candy at you. Like, ooh, look at this miner. Ooh, look at this private. Oh, look what this can do. And oh my God, like if you lose focus, and that happened to me, like at the beginning we played with actually Tony, who used to be on Heavy Cardboard, now does Dual Gauge podcast. He was the one teaching this. And he was like, so if this is your first game, and you want to play it safe, I wouldn't start at most 2 or 3 minor companies. And like we're like 3 hours in, and he looks over at me and he's like, and I can see Andy's completely ignored my advice because I had like 5. And then I look down and I'm like, oh crap, because I realize how bad I'm about to get like hosed in the train rush. And I somehow kept, because you don't go bankrupt in 1822. You're just forced to take these horrible loans that really count against you at the end. And I somehow like, I think this is a testament to my increased skill at 18xx from playing online all year, because I was able to train juggle here and there and merge and do all this crazy crap. And I never had to take out a loan, and I ended up coming in second, which was crazy because I was like staring like last place in the face in the mid game. But I think I can say this for 1822. I have never played an 18xx other than this where I felt more in control of my own destiny of how I wanted to play the game. If I wanted to play a merger game, great. I can take out a whole lot of minors through the auctions. If I don't want to play a merger game, great. I don't take out a lot of minors. Instead, I can get a major through the auction, or I can get a private company. There was just, yeah, you had so much control of the type of game you wanted to play in this game. And that was really cool.
I would jump in and say that this is the 18xx to play if you like auction games and you like variable player powers. If those are kind of things you like in games, this is one that you would probably like, because every single stock round has several auctions going on, because not all the privates and not all the minor companies come up at once. They come up in waves each stock round, and then there's a simultaneous auction for all of them. So like when your turn comes around in a stock round, you can either do normal stock stuff like buying and selling shares of a major company, or you can place a bid on one of the 3 privates or the 4 minors or a couple other things that are up there. And it has this really neat auction mechanism that's like, it's got a track basically. And when you put a bid down, you have like 4 cubes with which you can put on the various tracks. And when someone beats you on that track, then one of the things you can do is move your cube ahead of them. But you've got to be able to pay everything you're winning. You can't like be ahead in multiple auctions and not be able to afford it. You have to have the cash to back you up. So that's like a little auction game going on all throughout this. And you're evaluating how good those different private companies are. They're basically all kinds of crazy powers. There's all kinds of weirdness going on with them. And I mean, it feels like there's an auction game and a variable player power game going on throughout it. This game blows away anything I've ever played in terms of variety and sheer number of private companies that you can fold into your major companies. Just all kinds of stuff.
Yep, and it's all variable every game. I mean, the map is static, but what order the majors come out, what order the minors come out, which privates are going to be in the game or not be in the game, and the order they come out are like different each time. So I think this game also, more than any 18xx I've played, probably has the most repeat play potential.
So when are we going to play?
Yeah.
I have a copy, so
I know. I want to play it.
Yep. So yeah, that was my Thursday. Friday was what did I do for Friday was John Company. I played John Company in the morning, and that was so not what I thought it was going to be. Like, I enjoyed it, but there was some people at the table that did not. So like any sort of Sierra Madre or Cole Worley game, it was of course very divisive. Some people really liked it. Basically, John Company is a negotiation game wrapped up in an economic engine where you're trying to pull the right levers to kind of make it squeeze out more money for you than anybody else. So the way you do it is you all hold positions within the East India Trading Company. And there is kind of like dice rolling where there's a roll for success kind of thing to see if you're going to get money out of the different colonies you go to. But you can kind of mitigate that with different resources and whatnot. But the thing is it's not like I roll for success and that determines how well I do. It's you roll for the test and that determines how well the company does. The only thing that can happen is if you roll badly enough, you can't actually be fired from your position, which is not that big a deal. But you roll for basically success. That determines the wealth of the company. And then whoever the boss of the company decides whether he's going to pay out dividends, what money goes to where, who gets that, and that kind of thing. So you might like invest within shipbuilding in the company, and that's going to give you some payout whenever anybody buys ships from a certain slot. I was playing this position called Director of Trade. So everybody would buy all these resources, but it was ultimately me who decided which colonies of the East India Trading Company these resources were assigned to. And everything's allowed. It's up for grabs in the negotiation. So, I basically looked at these 3 provinces that other players were running, and I'm like, we got enough resources really to invest in 2 of them. So,
Andy, this sounds like an infamous traffic with like worse elements of negotiation and roll for success.
I would say it's not quite as like mean in terms you can get shut out, but it is negotiation. So basically I was like, yeah, 2 out of 3 of you are getting resources. So you're going to have to figure out how to entice me to be which 2 that's going to be. And so they ended up paying me money, and you can give these little promise cubes that they have to pay off, or they can trade in for different things, basically representing favors. The weird part is you don't want to stay in a position very long. You ultimately want to be retired out of it, because it's only when your people in these positions retire that you actually get to buy victory points, which is the ultimate way you win the game. But other than that, it's basically just a funky economic engine that you're trying to like basically get more money to squeeze out for you so that you can do better things with it than anybody else. There's randomness for sure, but it's mitigatable randomness, and it's not for the most part, it didn't seem like it was randomness as in you were screwed by it, just that the overall game state was screwed by it. And then what are you going to do about that? I enjoyed it. I would say it was probably my gauge of the table. About 75% of the people that were playing it enjoyed it. About 25% were like, nope, not for me, which is not too bad. Then that night I played 18 CLE, which is the game I got at Gen Con. That went okay, other than I kind of screwed up a major rule. And yeah, I'm sorry about that. That went a lot longer than it should have because I oopsed.
18 CLE.
Yeah, I like screwed up when the national train starts, so the game really drug on longer than it was supposed to.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. I was in that game of 18 CLE, but I wasn't planning on it. I was planning on playing Dune at that time. Okay, so Dune's a negotiation game, and what I do when I play like negotiation games usually is I walked up to the bar right beforehand and I drank about 4 shots. Okay? So this is, I feel like, very open and loose to negotiate, and I feel comfortable with that. Because Dune's not really that complicated. It's mostly just negotiation. Like, the combat in it is side, and then it's a bunch of negotiation, basically. So Dune fell apart. The guy running it didn't think it would finish. So I wander over, and then I wind up playing 18 CLE, and, like, I can't even concentrate. So I was making semi-random moves, and then I was just, like, almost like trash talking this other guy at the table for some reason. I don't really even know why. But it was like some random guy I'd never met. I'd rather be in 3rd place than in 6th, so I'm not going to do what you want. And yeah,
Trent was diplomacy 18xx. It was
anyway.
well, yeah. Then Saturday, what did I do Saturday? Saturday was the big one I had scheduled was I did a playtest of Biomus Megafauna 2, the prototype I was helping with. I got all the rules right in that one except one minor thing, which is not bad for a Phil Eklund game. And that went over really well because there was actually a couple people playing it that had just played Bios Genesis that came out last year before. And they got into this game. They're like, yeah, okay, this is a game. I can actually make choices here that affects things. There was a lot of interaction between the different players. I would say everyone came out of that with a really positive experience. There was about 2 people at the table that were like, at the end of it, they're like, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to pre-order this game, but I'm going to go pre-order it right now. So that was really cool. And then, what did we do? I think we just ended up playing some random Winsomes and stuff that day. It was kind of, I can't remember everything we played that day. It was a little crazy. Sunday was another game of 18 CLE where I actually got the rules right, and that worked much better. I was playing that with some like a little bit more experienced train gamers than I am, and oh my god, that was insane. Like there was one guy who basically dumped all of his companies during the Depression and just held on to his money until the end of it, and then like started new companies. It was insane. It was really cool. I had a really good time doing that. We played a game of tramways that was really cool. The only thing we did it was rough. The only thing we didn't get to try that'll be interesting to try in our local group is Albin Viard made a map for tramways just for Heavycon. And so we have a tramways map of Denver, and it has some like unique mechanisms on it. So I'm going to be interested to give that a try. Apparently it's supposed to be a 4-player map, and he said you can play it with 5 players, but it's like, oh my God, horrible death. Which of course makes me want to play it 5 players.
Of course.
So my suggestion is we play it, but we play it with 5 players and use the stressful side of the boards.
Oh, let's play a 6-player 4 corners while we're at it.
Exactly.
6-player.
But anyway, I don't know. Like, the games were really cool and all that. I think the most fun for me was actually meeting a lot of these other podcasters that I listen to and who I interact with on Twitter. There was a lot of people I've tweeted to and stuff that I went up to them. I'm like, hey, I'm Andy. And they're like, oh, Andy, I know you. And like, we're like shaking hands, giving me hugs, that kind of thing. So as much as the games were fun, like just being able to play games with really nice people and meeting lots of new people who I had never met online or offline, and also meeting a lot of the people I had met online and talked to. For me, that was really the highlight. Pretty much everyone I talked to there was a really nice person. I mean, you could definitely tell the introverts versus the extroverts, but, no one was standoffish. Everyone was really nice, very friendly, would engage in a conversation. A lot of the train gamers I played with there were really funny, interesting individuals. Nobody was really trying to really axe anybody other than, just good-natured 18xx play. But nobody was taking
Trent.
Yeah. And nobody was taking it too seriously. Everyone was just trying to win and have a good time. I don't know. It was just like overall, it was more of a positive experience than, I could have hoped for. It was a really just good, relaxing time of gaming is really what it felt. It was basically a 4 or 5 day game day, and so it was good times.
Sounds legit. Trent, do you have any gaps to fill in there?
Quite a few, because I did not overlap with Andy a lot. I actually got there on Wednesday, and so I started off by playing Indonesia at the pre-con meetup at a brewery, and that was a very solid game of Indonesia. I learned during that game that if 2 players control the entire shipping on the board, and they've made them so that they can't be merged together, those 2 players are going to win the game. Especially when the Siap Faji companies are split up, and there's multiple players controlling the Siap Faji.
Yeah. It's also worth adding that Trent played this game having drove straight to Colorado without like eating and then had beer.
Yeah,
at altitude.
But I came in second out of the 4, so I was.
Trent seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was Indonesia. It was awesome way to start it off. Probably my favorite game of the entire con. This is sound funny, but was the one I played the next morning, which was Rolling Stock, which I'm absolutely in love with, and in fact, I'm playing online right now, which I should be recording, but I'm playing Rolling Stock. Rolling Stock is basically a card game. It's basically 18xx. You take the board and you throw it in the trash, and everything else is is basically minor companies being rolled into major companies. That's all the game is. Rather than having an actual stock market board, what you have is you have a number of cards laid out on the table that represent different share values, and each company can only have one certain share value. They can't share them. So what actually happens is they move up and move down. They move up and down a number of spaces, basically. So if a particular say it's going to move up 2 values, if the three values right in front of it are gone, it's going to move up a whole ton that round. So what you're trying to do, basically, in essence, in this game is, at least as far as I can tell, to the point of which I've been playing this, you're trying to line it up so you have a couple companies going, and they synergize so they're hopping over each other when they go up in value. And you're also hoping that some of the other companies get in the middle there too, so you're hopping 3 or 4 spots. It's a game of timing. It's a game I am terrible at, but I am thoroughly entertained by right now. I actually played the 2nd edition rules of the game, which aren't quite out publicly yet, that simplify the game quite a bit, because I was not fully understanding the 1st edition rules, but the 2nd edition ones make sense to me. The 2nd edition rules will be out by midsummer. That's what will be officially with the game. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to upgrade the 1st edition that I have to 2nd edition, but I'm not sure I ever want to play 1st edition with paper components. I definitely want to play the 2nd edition with paper components, and when that happens and that is out, you guys are going to be forced to play it. Just face it, it's going to happen. I really, really deeply enjoyed Rolling Stock. It's one of those games that I think is going to be, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I don't think there's going to be much in the middle. But I am thoroughly entertained by it right now. So, Rolling Stock. It's like a stock collection game. Very interesting how it works. Okay, I will move on from there. I also played... Okay,
Mike, I have a question, because Rolling Stock, how long did Rolling Stock take?
With the 2nd edition rules, it took about 2 hours.
No, that's better. Usually it was the old one. I thought was like a good 4-hour game most times.
Yes. Well, one of the things they did in the 2nd edition is they removed the purple companies, which is what made the game go long. You can optionally play with them in 2nd edition, but we did not play with them. If you add them, it adds about an hour. Those are like the in-game companies that you play very late. And yeah, with 2nd edition, you can just remove them and play up to the blue companies. Basically, it moves through the rainbow of colors. It starts with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then purple. We played without the purple, which is basically which is the basic game and which is the normal game. I don't really know. But the version we played was about 2 hours. And I felt it was complete. So, and I've mostly been playing online. I played one game with the purple companies, but most of them have been with just up to blue. And yeah, it's confusing either way. So I feel terrible no matter which number of companies I'm playing with.
What game do you think is, like, I really like this game, or what game is a really good indicator of whether or not you'll like Rolling Stock? Do you think there's really nothing like it, or what do you think?
I can't really think of one. The closest thing I think of is an 18XX is really heavily on stock manipulation, but that's not even quite right.
So kind of like that Tesla versus Edison one that you guys played.
Tesla versus Edison's not a bad comparison either.
I still haven't played it, so I that's just going off your previous comments, basically.
Yeah.
And based what Trent was telling me, I think is if you're not a fan of opaque games, you're probably not going to have the best of times with it.
It's not. I've played it now a bunch of times online, and it is not coming together quite to me. You put this in, you get this out quite yet. The system's still not. I mean, it's like I've said with Trick of the Rails, it's one of those things where it feels all gooey when you first touch it, but if you can feel the bones underneath it, and I haven't quite figured out where all the bones are. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like you can sense they're there, but it hasn't quite clicked yet for me.
I've heard people complain that it's random and unstable, but usually they haven't played it enough to actually work out what's going on. I think the way I see it, from based on what people have said and I've read about it, is it sounds like most opaque games where it seems random and chaotic until you actually see that mechanism underneath and what it's doing.
Yep, I can see that the mechanism is there, but it hasn't like clicked together how it works yet. And I'm really kind of obsessed with figuring it out right now, honestly. Anyway, so you can play it online at rollingstock.net. I would not recommend playing it online at rollingstock.net if you have never played it before. Just do not play there without having played a game of it face-to-face with a teacher. Because, like, I barely understood it the first time, and I had just played it like a few hours before with a face-to-face teacher, and I still was like confused at rollingstock.net for a little bit. So, although it is online, the interface is not one that's going to encourage new players to jump into it. I really am a fan, though. I'm impressed with the game. I'm very intrigued. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I played PAX Renaissance. It's the best Phil Eklund game.
Uh-oh. What does that actually mean, though, Trent?
I'd play it again.
That's a step.
Yeah, that's a seal of approval right there.
I feel like it's a game that I would enjoy more if I understood fully all the cards that were in the deck. I think
I would say the pack series is kind of like that.
Yeah, I would say definitely with this one, I feel a lot better with it. I like the fact that it felt like you were assembling a tableau machine in this, which I kind of liked. I still felt it was kind of random, and there were still just times when, like, hey, look, this card flipped over. Hey, look, this person took it and just completely ganked everything I was doing. I still felt like that was there, but it wasn't quite as bad as it was in, like, Pax Porfiriana, which really frustrated me. I would play it again. I don't think I will ever... I probably won't ever own it unless, like, a lot of replays improve the standing of the game in my head. But I was glad I played it. I know how to play it. I can see why people appreciate it.
Have you ever played Pamir yet? PAX Pamir?
I have not.
Okay.
But I would say PAX Ren is way above PAX Porfiriana in my head.
Yeah, PAX Ren is definitely the most difficult of the Phil Eklund to really grok. It was getting a lot of play at Heavycon. That game was...
Is it like an hour or so, kind of like the other ones?
Yeah, it's a similar time length.
Mine took about 2. It's about 2.
There's just a lot going on in that game. I just got done watching the Heavy Cardboard did their live playthrough of it recently. And one of the guys there basically was like, I think literally this is the heaviest game I've ever played. There's just that many things to mentally try to keep in your head of what's going on.
I can see it being like that once you really clicked with you what was going on with it, but I don't know that I will ever get to that point with it. I don't know.
Hey Andy, how different is the final product versus the play test we played that one time?
It's pretty similar. I mean, at the time I played the play test with you guys, it was just really they were just tweaking a couple things at that point, but it plays pretty much the same. But yeah, I mean, because there's 4 different victory conditions all going on. And I think this one might be similar to Pamir, where if you make it obvious what you're trying to do, then other people are going to smack you down really fast. So you got to kind of try to play to all of the different things you could do. And that's where it could end up feeling random to someone. Like if you just let someone do everything they need to get to one victory condition, then it's like, well, how was I supposed to stop them? They just got all these cards and randomly. Well, there are other ways to mitigate that, and you should have been doing that. So if you kind of Euro game it to where you just focus on your own tableau, then it just seems like whoever gets the right combination of things to activate the right victory condition first wins. So it's just a lot to process because you really got to be looking at what every player's doing and what they're buying, what they're doing with it. You've got to look at the board state and which victory conditions are most likely given the board state. There's just a lot to process. From the people I know that have played it, they're saying they're like 6-7 games in, and like there's like it still hasn't eased out yet for them. There's a lot for them to think about.
That was the view the person teaching it to me was saying almost exactly that. They played it several times, and every time he played it, he was seeing different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, all right. Okay, so we'll move on from there. I played 3 different Winsome games during the convention. I gotta say, they all
games
kinda,
in quotes.
Yeah, I said they seemed mad at me. They weren't really all that interesting to me. The one that I actually found most interesting was the short one, and I almost wish I owned it just for social experiment type stuff. It took about 10 minutes, and it mostly involved laying a cube in a city or moving a train across a map, and that's all you did. And it took about 10 minutes, and It felt more like a social experiment than a game, and that's why I found it amusing.
Did I tell you I saw people playing this the next day, and I didn't
Really?
have time to get on the
Yeah.
game?
It's called
Yeah.
Northern Pacific. If I was to own any of the three that I played there, that would be it, and this would just be for laughs as a social, like 10-minute social experiment game.
No, they were playing, I think it was 6 or 8 players and the advanced game where you only get 4 cubes you can put down.
It's just it would be like almost pure negotiation, almost the social experiment, and it didn't take very long. Anyway, I don't think I would ever. The Winsome games feel like novelties to me for the most part, at least the ones I've played. Some of the ones that seem like they're actually genuinely interesting end up getting reprinted by other people, like Continental Divide. A lot of the other ones, the 3 I played, they all kind of felt like social experiments more than
Did
anything.
you guys going to play Irish Gauge?
No.
No, it was there, but it was always like other people pretty much always had it.
I want to see how that game is.
Question,
I played-
Andy, did it change your opinion? Are you going to be subscribing to Winsome?
I'm still on the fence. The problem so much with Winsomes is like, I mean, if you look at that sample and say that was a pack for the year, then I'm like, the ones we played would have not been worth to me $150 is about what it costs. But every now and again, you get an 1857 or an Irish Gauge where it's just like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. But it's kind of a crapshoot, you know? So I don't know. I'm still mulling it over. I wouldn't say I'm fully convinced to try it, but I'm still not. I'm not convinced not to yet, and I'm not convinced to definitely do it yet. I'm not going to do it this year for sure, but next year, I don't know. Who knows? Depends what all's coming out and what money I have, I guess.
So to clarify for listeners, Winsome Games is a company basically sells a pack of their games. Almost, you don't even really know what you're going to get. You just get a group of them at Essen, like a pile of 3 or 4 of them, and you just have no idea what you're going to get. They could be good, they could be bad, they could be deep, they could be not deep. You just don't know. And I say from this, I would have no interest in backing it. The only one, of the 3 I played, which were Northern Pacific, Southern Rails, and Trans-Siberian Railroad. Northern Pacific was the 10-minute social experiment game, and it's the only one I'd probably play again. That's honestly the truth.
That's yeah. So it was I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
Okay, so
we'll see.
I'm skipping ahead of games I played with Andy, and I played Arkwright the next day. I love Arkwright. I actually won Arkwright playing against some pretty good people. There was a very vicious game, probably the most vicious one I've ever played. People were doing all kinds of emergency stock sales. I saw people doing it like twice in one turn. It was really rough. I managed to win somehow with a score of 660. I don't know how I did it. I felt like I was almost lucky in doing so. I played. Huh?
What?
I won. I really don't know how I won. It's like how did that happen? But it was fairly close at the end, and I came out on top. I also played Millennium Blades. I thoroughly enjoyed Millennium Blades. I did discover one little thing we were doing wrong. You can't just sit there and milk the entire promo pile the first round.
Yeah, we found that out after like a couple plays.
Yeah, you can't do that, which does make improve the game. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
which was one of my complaints was that felt weird and
I'm gonna jump right along to my 9-hour epic game, Virgin Queen. Virgin Queen is a war game set in 16th century Europe. The title Virgin Queen refers to Queen Elizabeth I, who was obviously a major political player at the time. I've got to honestly say, Virgin Queen, having played it now, the full scenario, full enchilada, everything on the table. It's a like almost like an epic, like a. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Like this is an event game. It's something you would just play all day long, almost to say you have played it. I would put it like to me now. It feels like it needs to be sitting more next to Twilight Imperium. That's how it felt to me. So Virgin Queen, it's meant for 2 to 6 players. We played it with a full player count, if I remember correctly. We might have only had 5. I think we had 6 though. So the board is a giant map of Europe. Each player is one of the powers in Europe: the Holy Roman Empire, England, France, Spain, the Netherlands, and the Ottoman Empire. Each of those players has a goal. You're trying to get to 25 victory points at the end of a round, or each player has a unique victory condition for them that involves them winning the game. Each player also has 2 or 3 unique mechanisms just for them for generating victory points. Mine, I was England, and my key way of generating victory points throughout the game was to basically keep Elizabeth alive and unmarried. She needed to tease marriage with people, then jilt them on the wedding day by not marrying them, and then she got victory points for that. She also got some other rewards for that if she was marrying someone within England or attempting to marry someone within England. It was an interesting mechanism, but I had to waste. The way the game works is each player gets a handful of cards that have actions on them each round. They have like a number up at the top, which is a number of action points, or a nifty special ability on the card. You have a handful, like 6 or 8 of these. So each turn you're playing one of those cards either for its points to do a number of actions on the board, or to actually do the main effect on the card. It's just a lot of that type of stuff going on. Everybody's got their own powers they're trying to do. There's naval battles, there's land battles. There's a ton of political intrigue in this. In fact, one of the phases of each round is you stop for 10 minutes, and you literally do a diplomacy-style negotiation phase, where you can go off in a corner with other players and talk to them about plans. First couple rounds of this, no one really did it. Last couple rounds, people were doing it like crazy, trying to negotiate out a win. I ended up winning as England by basically keeping everybody at peace and even paying people to stay at peace with me. And then the last round, I declared war on France and sacked the Normandy coast and won the game using England's special unique victory condition, which means they didn't really have to control that much territory. They just had to keep Elizabeth alive, basically. It was wonderful. It took 9 hours. It's an all-day event game. It's the type of thing where everybody's just going to either get into it or they're not, or they shouldn't be playing it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It makes me want to play Here I Stand. The guy explained some of the differences, but honestly, this seems like it's very similar to Here I Stand with just slightly different players' powers and stuff like that. If this is your kind of thing, it sounds this would be awesome, you're going to think this is awesome. This sounds like this is not really my thing, then it's not going to be your thing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it. I'm glad I have actually done this. That's Virgin Queen. It was pretty cool.
Nice. So 9 hours though is about the standard going rate, or was this game longer than it should have been?
We played there's a whole bunch of scenarios in the scenario book. We played the full enchilada scenario of like all of it. Everything you could, the full time frame, nothing missing from the deck, just every option you could throw into it. We also had a player that was a little AP-ish. There were times when there was some pretty significant downtime during this that there probably didn't necessarily need to be. I felt like he was like not really thinking his turns ahead at all during the downtime when other people were playing. I think with non-AP players, it could go a lot less than that, even at the full scenario. I think that you could do the full scenario in 6 hours if everybody was involved, and you could do shorter ones much shorter.
Sure.
That was my take on it. And I'm gonna again skip ahead and talk about the one other game I played that didn't overlap with Andy that's probably of note, and that's 1837. Which I spent most of the last day of the convention playing. I played this with Kyle and Tony of the Dual Gauge podcast, and another fellow whose name I'm not remembering right now.
Wasn't it Chad?
Chad, is that who his name was? I don't remember.
Paul Chad, whatever. It's like Tony's buddy.
Yeah, I think he was clearly buddies with Tony, and Tony taught it, and it's set in Europe in the Austrian Empire in the mid 1800s. The thing this game is unique is it felt like it has a very mellow pace. Like it's when you would play, like I could see people playing this while they were having a few mixed drinks. It's not that it's slow or boring. It's just that a lot of it is there's a long yellow phase to start it. Yellow phase seems like is very, very long. Like you're still in yellow tiles by the middle of hour 2, which means you're pretty early on in the game. The game does start to accelerate after that, but it feels like it has a very casual start to it. The interesting part about this game is there's a bunch of mining companies all over the board. These are little tiny micro companies that end up getting sucked into the major companies automatically. They basically just build out a bunch of tiles for the major companies to use later. It's kind of neat how that works. I was told directly that 1824 is almost the same exact game with a smaller map, and it plays a lot faster. So I would be interested in 1824. I don't think in our local group that 1837 would really fly. Not when there's a lot of other ones to play. I could see 1824 flying. I probably wouldn't play 1837 again outside of a con, although I did enjoy the experience. And that's pretty much all I got to say about the games I played there.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from playing the people, especially at train games I did, is our local group is way too nice at 18xx.
Yes, I'd agree with that 100%.
Which is funny because if you, I'd just like to really quickly invite any of our listeners to join in to the Good Board Ugly Guild. It's a great place. Hey, we've even got a new member since like when I checked 2 days ago. But there was a really fun post. Anybody who enjoys 18xx games, you owe it to yourself to come and read the post. That was a reaction to my review of 1846. And I have a hard time pronouncing the title of the post. It's ARG, with an exclamation point. And that kind of gives you an idea. But let's see. Regarding winning, maybe it's just me, but winning an 18xx, while nice, is not really why I play them. You seem so focused on having to win an 18xx that it seems like it would take away the enjoyment if I may or may not have forgot to grab the income from a private company or from a share. Andy? We're nice, right?
Oh, yeah. No, like literally everyone I played at Heavycon, I would say there was at least 3 to 4 times more shares in the bank pool that had been sold by players than I've ever seen happen in Ames. Like people dump left and right if it's financially even advisable. It's like, you know, for small term game, they're like, hey, you're paying out a lot. But if I can sell all these, I can start a new company. Let's do that. Bam. And just, oh man. Like company dumping was like, I saw people dump legitimately decent companies.
Oh, it happens all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's like, I emptied half the treasury here. You can have it. And they would just dump it on someone and then start a new company with money from that. Yeah. It was.
The thing is, no one ever buys multiple shares in a company unless it's like doing really well. No one wants to get company dumped in their group. No one ever does it. Joe's just like, oh God, Nate's got another company. Well, time to sell my shares in his company.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I saw people like the big thing I saw that was different and that I'm starting to pick up was people really watch the company turn order and priority deal a lot more than we tend to. Like people were really manipulating that. And so like I saw several times where a guy's like, you know, your shares are going to pay a lot, but I need to go before you in the operating round. Sell 3 shares. And like that was just a normal thing that happened. And, you know, and it wasn't that people were being mean, like everyone was laughing and having a good time of it. But yeah, people were much more cutthroat in what they were willing to part with and what they were willing to grab, snag, and pick up in order to manipulate the game state. Yeah, it wasn't just a situation where, oh, you're doing really efficient. Okay, what can I do to disrupt your efficiency? That happened a lot. So it was really interesting to see that different level of play. And, you know, the fact I even did as well as I did in some situations, I'm like, you know, maybe I have gotten better at these. That was kind of cool. But everyone I played with, you know, all the train gamers I played with were super nice people. Really talkative, having good times, you know, laughing. You know, they would laugh about as hard as if you shafted them, as if they shafted you. It was good time. Everybody was really just, you know, it was just such a positive experience. Even when the game was pretty cutthroat, everybody was, you know, pretty cordial about it. So, but that was a big takeaway, at least in train gaming I had from it was, wow, there's a lot more you can manipulate here if you're watching it. And so, I don't know. It'll be interesting to try that.
So, anything else from Heavycon, guys? I mean, it seemed like you guys were really having a blast, and anybody who follows you guys on Twitter, like the tweets were coming fast and furious.
I guess, I would say it was what I expected. It's definitely a convention for heavy gamers. There was an occasional light filler thrown out here or there, but everything else was medium Euro up. It's a really friendly place. Everyone had a great time, was talking, taking pictures, having some drinks. But if you're going expecting some huge announcements, it's not that type of convention. If you're wanting to buy games, it's not that type of convention. It really is just kind of a vastly more specific BGG con. But it was a great time. I really hope I get the chance to go again sometime in the future
I was
because
jealous the entire time reading your tweets. It's like, oh, Andy, it's 1822. Good for Andy.
My reaction was more,
No,
I'm really glad he's getting to do this now, and I won't be pressured into doing any of this later.
Oh,
But
you say that now.
yeah, it's probably going to happen anyway. That's my response, by the way, to the guy who on the aforementioned post on our guild, he basically was like, why am I even considering playing another 18xx? And the answer to that is, well, if you can't beat them, join them, and then if you still can't join them, then
Still get peer pressured into playing with us.
No, it was funny.
It's,
There were a few GBU listeners involved in games. There was someone, oh God, I think it was John Company we were playing, and they're like, do you like this, Andy? You're like, yeah, I'm really having a good time. They're like, what do you think Joe's reaction to this will be? And I'm like, I'm not going to play it with him.
So it's definitely more of like, as far as Cole Worley's designs go, it's more of an infamous traffic.
Oh yeah,
than a PAX Pamir.
It is not a PAX Pamir. It is much closer to an infamous traffic.
I think they just should have kept the original name for an infamous traffic. You know, the something wind, a foul wind
or something.
A foul wind.
So awesome. But it was.
I don't understand why they changed the
I
name.
don't see why they didn't keep it.
Who wants to play a foul wind? Rip.
Perfect name for that game.
But no, it was funny. Yeah, no, Joe, your name got brought up a couple times. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I imagine I'm probably the counter to a lot of the hype and groupthink that's there. So I'm at least glad that I've infected at that point. So the infection is spread.
You become the heavy game community's foil.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like the only one who will actually play them, and then even though I keep on, I have these reactions, and I keep on giving them a new shot. Why? Maybe because, Andy, when it comes down to it, you love your games to be painful. I just love my entire playing experience to be painful.
I'm a sadist.
Yeah, just in a totally different way.
Well, and I will say this: the vast majority of the Heavycon attendees were not closet masochists; they were out and out masochists. Like, I did teach an infamous traffic to a few people, and I'm like, this game's mean, just letting you know. And and we played it that way, and they're like, yeah, I like this. And I'm like, that is not usually the reaction I get to this game.
That last game we played, though, I only played 2 rounds, but I almost won.
Oh God. And that's what's funny is a guy was talking to me about it, and he's like, well, have you tried being nicer? I'm like,
oh yeah, I remember that.
But the problem is that only works if everyone's nice, and sometimes your best move is to be a dick. And once you're a dick, it behooves everyone else to be just as nasty as you are, and then it just spirals down to no actions.
Yeah, I don't know. I like being able to be a dick when everybody knows the game. Like, it's just like what you were saying, Andy. It sounds to me like you've probably changed quite a bit even since last year's Gen Con. Because I'm wondering now, would you have been as frustrated from your experience in the Puffer Billy room with your current outlook? Because it sounds to me like you took just about every ounce of hostility in Heavycon. You just you ate that up. It was like, feed me, yes, give it to me.
The difference was, though, from that, my experience in the Puff and Billy room was not that it was harsh. It's that as harsh as it was at Heavycon, like it was still all about having a good time playing a game. So there would be like, hey, you can take a mulligan. Let's do that. Like people were still friendly about it. In the Puff and Billy room in Gen Con, like people were friendly, but there was still this edge of this is a tournament. Like no take backs. Like,
but I mean, like the meanness from every game that you played, like to me, I would understand that more if everybody's getting rewarded. Otherwise, it just seems like you're just really a dick. Like there's no reason for you to hurt me here. We're just playing this for fun. Why would you do this to my company?
Oh, because it just needs to happen.
It's like playing a pro like Magic game. You're still trying to win in a casual game, but if you're playing like a tournament or something, you're really trying to win, and you're gonna use
like the meta things,
the meta crap, and just that's a problem. Put Andy on edge.
Yeah,
like I just got done playing
person. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying, Andy? I missed that.
I said, I'm just inherently like I play to win, but I'm not competitive. Like I don't really care what my final placement out of it is. And I like that. Like even when the games were rough at Heavycon, the atmosphere was still like, hey, we're having a good time. How are you? Like, there was a lot of table talk and back and forth and discussion and laughing.
Like you could have done something mean and they would have laughed it off. When they did something mean, you laughed it off, that type of thing. Whereas, there wasn't like eyes narrow in and you just like look for the jugular, even though it seems like that's kind of the idea anyway.
Yeah, like that's the thing is when I was in the Puff and Billy room, like it was all friendly and nice, but once the game started, like table talk kind of just died off, and it was like focus on the game, gotta win it, and I don't particularly care for that experience, and that was not how I got. Like people were cutthroat at Heavycon, but it was a good-natured cutthroat, and then. Other than I think one guy talked about, like there was some Intro 18XX game where the guys kind of taught him the rules and then just sharked him. For the most part, the games I played, like the people teaching it were doing the typical teaching thing. Like I've taught you the rules. Now I'm going to try to do something stupid I've never done before, and we'll see if that actually works.
I was taught 2 different games by Tony Fryer, and he did that in both of them. And he didn't finish well in either one of them, but he was obviously enjoying himself and trying weird things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like I can appreciate that. Well, it sounds like you guys had quite a successful Heavycon, and what do you think? Is next year in the cards?
Yeah, probably not for me, but that's not so much in that I don't want to go. It's just, unfortunately, it's Memorial Day weekend and it's likely to stay that. And that's just a really difficult time to get off as a teacher.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Question for Trent here. Trent, BGG-Con versus Heavycon. You only get to go to one. What do you go to?
That's actually really tough. That's really hard. That's really hard. I'd probably say Heavycon.
Nice.
I probably would, and the reason is that I generally, this is gonna sound completely crazy, and I said it, but I feel like BGG-Con was almost too big, and the size of this was more appealing to me. I think I don't mind that. I mean, it's not so much the game selection, although I appreciate the heavier games at Heavycon, but there's plenty of those at BGG-Con. But BGG-Con, there's 3,000 people, and it's with Heavycon, I felt like I was familiar with a lot of the faces by the end of it, and I got to know a lot of people. It was a lot easier to like maybe get to know someone a little bit at BGG-Con, and then boom, they were lost in the crowd.
Yeah,
and then you never saw them again.
I would agree with that. By even the third day, there was a lot of people that would just walk by. Hey, Andy, what are you playing today? And it was people that I didn't talk to online on Twitter. Like they were just people I'd been talking to at the convention.
Yep, exactly. Same thing. So I think it's the size of it. I think that the convention would lose some of its charm if it got a lot bigger.
And I think that's part of the impetus on keeping it invite only and smaller is just to maintain that kind of atmosphere. That's kind of the gist I got out of where they want to take it. They want to increase it, but not get it so huge that you lose kind of that, feel of it being a bunch of kind of people getting together to have fun that know each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it grows over time and what changes about it.
I think it can grow a little bit and retain its charm, but there's some magic number that's between Heavycon and BGGCon and size where I think it gets too big and loses the personal flavor. And I think that number's closer to Heavycon's current size than it is to BGGCon's.
Yeah.
I think what I'm saying is I think 200 to 300 would probably be about as all as. I think if they got that big, it would probably be like a coin flip to me.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And I think we'll just sum it up there. Oh, one last thing. Trent, did because we didn't really have a hype section. Did you end up playing that prototype?
No, unfortunately, I did not.
Oh, all right.
Which prototype?
The spotter one?
No, I did not.
Oh, no, he didn't have that there as far as I could tell. But they did say what Capstone's coming out with for the next year or two, and oh my god,
I'd be pretty hyped.
Yeah, and as you say, we can just go. What were those? There was Noya Heimat.
The Climbers, which is a really popular filler, like abstracty filler. I don't really know how the game plays at all, but I've heard really good things.
I saw people playing it. Yeah, it was interesting.
And Wildcatters, which I know has been a game a lot of people have been looking for and is supposed to be really good, and it's one of those kind of hard to find games. So
Cool.
yeah,
I fight for that a lot in Neuheim. Can't wait to win a game at -30.
yeah, exactly. And the thing that's baffling me is Clay's coming out with all this stuff, and he wasn't at Heavycon because basically he was gonna have a kid, or his wife was. And I'm like, how are you going to have like a baby, a full-time job, and a game? Like, he just must be able to exist without sleep. I don't.
Meth's a hell of a drug.
But more power to him. Every time I turn around, I'm like, is he gonna jump the shark sometime? Like, he can't really keep just like basically releasing games that are on my wish list on BGG constantly like this, can he? And then he's like, here's what I'm putting out the next year. And I'm like, yep, on my wish list, on my wish list, on my wish list.
Somehow gets the Dune license, reprints Dune.
Yeah. I don't
be up Trent's alley.
Well,
I would be
Fantasy Flight has the right to the mechanics. They just don't have the right to the Dune theme.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That Herbert Estate, for all their quirks, won't release it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, nope. Good things on the heavy game horizon yet.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, listeners, for joining us here this week on Good, the Board, and the Ugly. Join us on Board Game Geek. Our guild is number 2173, but if you just search for guilds, you'll find the Good, the Board, and the Ugly. Join into the discussion. If you went to Heavycon, post about your Heavycon experiences. Let us know. What games did you share with guys from the podcast here with Andy and Trent, and what other ones are you excited for? Anyway, we hope you have a great week of gaming. I've been your host, Joe Salin. I've been joined tonight by
Andrew Dennison,
Trent Ham,
Nathan Eggers.
And have a great week of gaming. Catch us next week on The Good, the Board, and the Ugly.
Boom. Yay.
Yay.
Oh, we'll say project.
Go ahead and stop the broadcast.